I mentioned, I'm going to jump around a bit. I used the word jump to make a bridge between places that don't seem to be related, which is also explained in the article that's been given to you. I mentioned earlier that I kind of went on this learning binge about 8 years ago, at the time that my son was born, and that it was during the course of that that I started to understand, or started to experience and become interested, not what I was learning about, but about my learning itself. In other words, I started to switch from a concern about what it was I was chasing, physics or oceanography or anthropology or whatever it might be, to what was happening to me inside as I was learning. And that one of the things that started to happen when I started to become kind of like a fish questioning the water, in a way, was how was it that these textbooks in particular, as I went to the library with kind of the shopping cart mentality and brought these things back and jumped around through them, one of the things that I started to recognize, whether it was about any subject, that there was numerous experts that all wrote books on any given thing that I was interested in, and every one of them had this tone, which I now call, "It is so," right? That pervading everything that was written, all these books, was this tone that was, "It is so." That there was no space in the tone of the way books were written. They were written as if that's the way that is. It is so. And even when there were all these different books competing with one another, they were disagreeing with one another, they would all still have this. There was no, what I would call, provisionality in the tone of the way these materials were presented, were created. And this really began to bother me because as I started to think about it from a learner's perspective, the most important quality of materials intended to facilitate learners would be that they create a space and an invitation and an openness to have somebody continuing to be wanting to learn. And that the very nature of "it is so" is a disinvitation that says there's nothing to learn about here, there's something to know here, but there's nothing to learn about here. And it started to really boggle me that all these books and all these films, all these presentations of the experts of the world regarding whatever it was, had this quality that "it is so." And that the more that I went into that, the more that it seemed fundamentally antithetical to anybody, to asking somebody to be learning. That when you put that kind of a tone on it, that kind of a disinvitation to it, that there was not there was not the quality of environment necessary to help somebody learn. It could help somebody know about knowledge, but it wasn't going to help them have the qualities that we described as we went around the room about the reason for being of education. It wasn't going to be calling forth them. It was going to be, as I mentioned in the coma patient, kind of exercising somebody without calling forth their critical participation.